Hello and welcome. Today we'll talk about installing and configuring Windbg. If you have not watched my previous video on debugging 101, I highly recommend you to first go and watch that video before you start watching this one. Today I will show you a demo of how to install and configure Windbg. When I say configure, I am mainly talking about setting up the symbol server, which would be required when we debug. Again, if you are not sure what is symbol or symbol server, please go back and watch my previous video on debugging 101. I'll add a link to that video in the description below. Now, what is a symbol server? Basically, it's a server where your debugger will look for its symbols. For example, when we take a memory dump, we take a dump of a process, which mostly is in a form of exe. So when we open that dump in a debugger, it would look for the PDBs of that exe and also the PDBs of all the DLLs that that exe is dependent on. Now, symbol server is the path where your debugger will look for those symbols. It can be a local path. You can just set it as a string. For example, if you are debugging a local application and you have a local copy of all your symbols, you can simply copy them to one or more directory, maybe depending on your projects, and then you can create a string like this, separated by semicolons, and you set it as the symbol server. So in that case, your debugger will look for cdir1 first, and then if it doesn't find the symbol there, it will go to cdir2, dir-a, and so on and so forth. You can also set up a symbol server, which means you point your debugger to a web location and ask your debugger to search and download your symbols from there. For example, when you are debugging a process which for which you need some of the symbols of Microsoft DLL, Microsoft has a public URL where you can download all the PDBs. And this is what it looks like if you see the one starting with msdl.microsoft.com. And then you point your debugger to this location. So the debugger will search for the PDBs in this location. Now, there are two ways mainly to set up the symbol path. One is you can set it as a environment variable path called, you can create an environment variable called _nt_symbol_path and set the value of that variable to your symbol server string, like you can see here. In that case, all the debugger that is installed in your system will check for the symbol in that location. I generally avoid doing this. The reason being, it makes my Visual Studio slow. So when I'm debugging something in my Visual Studio, it will try to download all the PDBs that actually I don't need debugging my application. So it makes the Visual Studio slow. So I prefer to set the variable directly from Windbg so that my other debuggers are not affected and my Windbg still knows where to find it. If you set a directory like in point one, if you see, it will not only look into that directory for the symbol, it will also look for some subdirectories. as you can see, like it will go to your directory and then DLL or exe or sys. For example, uh, if you set the path to cdir1, then it will look, if it will first look into cdir1 for that particular symbol. If it doesn't find it there, it will go to cdir1 slash symbols slash DLL. If your binary is a DLL binary, otherwise if it's an exe, then it will go to the exe, otherwise it will go to sys. Then it will also go to this directory, which is cdir1 and DLL or exe or sys, and also, as I said, directly in that DLL. So these are the different locations that it will try to look for the PDB if you set the path only to cdir1, for example, right? Also, every time you compile your application, it will create a new PDB. So to debug, it needs the exact PDB that was created when you debug that particular DLL. So when it looks for the symbol, it also checks for the timestamp, just to make sure that it's the DL for which it's looking for the symbol, and this PDB has the same name and also the same timestamp, just to make sure that it's looking into the right symbol. If it doesn't load the right symbol, it will break some of the stack and you will not be able to find out what's going on. Now let's quickly go to a demo. First, we need to download the Windbg. So if I go here, I have put it shortcut this link. I'll also put this link in the description section below, so you can use that one. So once I go to this page, I get different options to install Windbg. It comes as a part of Windows Driver Kit. It also comes as a part of Windows SDK, and it is also available standalone from Windows Store. In Windows Store, we also have the next version of WinDBG in preview available, which we also sometimes call as WinDBGX, which is a very nice tool. I generally use that a lot of times. I love that tool. But for now, we'll use the classic WinDBG. So first, I'll try to download WinSDK, and I'll download the installer of WinSDK. It's done, so I'll open it. I'll say next. I'll take the default path and next, accept. And then if you see, it comes with all these tools. But for now, I don't need all these tools. So the second one is debugging tool for Windows. That is the one I'm looking for. However, the Windows Performance Toolkit, this is also a very important one. I will probably create a video on this later on. But for now, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need any one of these. I'm just installing debugging tool for Windows. So install. So it's installing the tool. So once the installation is done, our next job would be to set up the symbol path. So let's see, within a few minutes, it should get installed. So the reason while we're installing, I just want to reiterate, the reason we need symbols is if we don't install symbol, we will miss out a lot of information. Symbols holds a variety of data which are not actually useful or needed when running the binaries, but it could be very useful when we debug the process. Okay, so we're done installing. Click on OK. And then what I'll do is I'll search for Windbg. There you go. So you can see it has 64-bit x86 ARM and ARM64. So depending on the process for which you took the dump, you need to run the right Windbg. For example, if you took a dump for x64 process, then we need to run Windbg x64, right? Okay, now that Windbg is installed and opened, um, let's try to open a dump file. So I already have a dump file. I just drag and drop it here. And I'm not going to cover the details of the commands in this video, but these are most basic command K, which gives us the stack information. So if you see, um, this is what the stack looks like if I run it. Now, we have not set up the symbol server yet for this WinDBG. So let's set up the symbol server and see if that makes any difference. Now, let's open a notepad. And if you remember from my previous slide, this is how a symbol server string looks like. So this downstream is the path where the symbols will be downloaded and cached before it actually loaded in the debugger. And the last part, this is actually the symbol server for Microsoft. So all the public symbols are available in this location. So for this local store or downstream store, as we call it, let's set a path. See, let's say this is the path I have set. Now I also need to go and create the path. So C new folder SYM done. Now what I have to do is copy this and file symbol path, and I put it here. If you want to understand how to set a symbol path, I will put a link of a very good article from Microsoft in the description below. So I say okay, and if you say I'll say dot reload so that it can reload all the modules and the symbols that is required. So that's done. Now let's run the same command again, K. And now it's slow because it's downloading certain things. Earlier, if you remember, it ran very fast because it didn't had any symbol to download. And now if you see, instead of some just hexadecimal number, some offsets, we can actually see the function name, which is a wwin main. See that? That is the difference that your symbol makes. Now it makes more sense because it gives you the function. And this is the very basic example, but in actual, it gives you a lot of details that is not possible without symbols. So here you just see two names, but there are a lot more things that you can actually get during the real life, debugging. Sometimes you get names of global variables, local variables, function name, of course, as you can see. You get source line numbers so that it can map that specific instruction to your actual source code. You get FPOs or frame pointer omission records We'll talk about that in some other session, but just know that it's very important that you set the symbol path properly. Without that, you will not be able to debug. Also, if you go to this path now, we will see that it has downloaded all these symbols. So these were the symbols that were required to show this stack. So it has downloaded the symbols to here from the Microsoft public symbol server, and then it loaded those symbols in this debugger to show us this information. So this is how it um, works. Um, with that, we come to the end of this video. Please do like and subscribe. That would give me a lot of encouragement to create new videos. And if you're already doing that, uh, thank you a lot. So till the next video, have a nice day and goodbye.